When last we left off, we were talking about season one. Now it's time to talk about Game of Thrones season two. I finished it. Actually, it was a little while back just because I haven't gotten to watch a lot of Game of Thrones, but I'm trying to get through every Game of Thrones season and kind of review it and give my thoughts. Spoilers, obviously, although I think most people except me had seen this season going into this year at least. So let's talk about season two. Overall, season two was, again, really freaking fantastic. I definitely liked a lot of the plot lines that we had, especially the ending. I think season two's second half was really good. I think part of season two, a lot of it is the conflict between Renly and Stannis, and I really liked Renly. Renly is one of my favorite characters throughout. His few appearances in the first season, and then in the second season, I really liked Renly. I thought he was a great character to have in the show. Renly's awesome. Stannis was not the most likable. They talk about how honorable of a man he is, but he's definitely a sad man. And then there's of course the Red Woman who is poisoning his mind with her new religion, following the Lord of Light, and it ends with weird shadow baby that kills Renly. Not sure if I like that plot point, but I guess it was to show the real dark powers that the priestess has. I don't know. That was kind of dumb. I'll be honest with you guys. I wasn't super pleased about that. Maybe it's just because I'm just really peeved that one of my favorite characters had to die. I really liked Renly, and just seeing him die. And it was funny. We were watching with my dad. He doesn't really follow the show. He's interested in the episodes that he does watch, but he doesn't really know a lot what's going on. He's not like my mom and I watched every episode that up to this point. He was all like, "He's dead." Like, yeah, Renly is gone. Renly is dead. And it's just like George R. Martin killing his characters. But yeah, I really thought that conflict was interesting between the two because it brought up a really good point. You've got Stannis, who's the warrior who by right the throne is his. He's the heir. But at the same time, Renly would actually be a good king because he's a likable guy and he's a good leader. And but then there's also the aspect of him being gay, and it's really great to have a gay character in the show. Unfortunately, the issue with that being is that he dies right away. So unless we have another gay character coming up, it is kind of unfortunate that our gay character, our gay icon, as they'd say, had to leave so early. So Renly, rest in peace him. I think, my main plot lines, the main plot lines that I care about, honestly, has probably been with the Lannisters. I think Tyrion, for one, was incredible in this season, working as a king's hand. He was a great king's hand. He really, putting Bronn in such a high position. Him and Bronn were definitely great schemers, and they were getting a lot done, and they were fantastic. And actually, another plot line that I loved about this season was Arya's plot line. I loved seeing Arya, and I loved seeing her with Tywin. I thought that was absolutely fantastic chemistry between a young actress and an older actor, between a villainous character and a young heroine, and between two of the most badass Game of Thrones characters of all time. Two amazing, fantastic characters. I mean, Tywin was just on point this whole season. Tywin was fantastic. His presence was amazing. He's a fantastic villain. He's one of the smartest guys in the whole thing. He just has such a badass presence. He's one of the most, if not the very most powerful man in Westeros at this point in time. And it's really exciting to see that. And I think it's exciting to see some of his cunning nature rub off on his son Tyrion, who, of course, is the king's hand. And then there's the whole thing with Shae having to be the aid of Sansa, which I think is definitely an interesting plot line too, and I'm interested to see where the relationship goes from there as well. And I like the rivalry between Cersei and Tyrion, even if I feel it's a bit over the top at points. Her willingness to kill him and everything, and her bitterness towards him did feel a little bit over the top at points, I'd say. Now, my favorite character right now is probably Theon, I'll be honest with you. I love Robb Stark, being King of the North. I love Jon Snow. I love all those. The Starks are amazing, but I really like Theon, and I think it's weird because he's not the likable guy in this season, but I like his story. I get his story, He was abducted as a young boy and raised by the Starks like a brother, and he has that love for Robb, and he has that love even for the Starks, but returning home, going back to the Iron Islands, his father's bitter, and he thinks that he has to impress his father, and he wants to be Prince Theon, his dad's going to be king of the Iron Islands, and he wants to be a conqueror. And it's just such an interesting story, and seeing him, kill Bran, and when he didn't actually kill him, and it was just a baker's boy, but it was to show that he's not afraid and that he has power when he really didn't kill Bran, and that's a great scene as well. And actually, even the Bran plotline with what's her name? I always forget her name. I think it starts with an O, and of course Hodor, who's just amazing. Those are really, really, really good plot lines as well. I thought most of the plot lines were good. There is one bad plot line, though, and that is the Daenerys plot line. Now, even though Daenerys is awesome as a character, I care about Daenerys, but I haven't really liked her plot lines. I haven't really cared about her and Viserys. I didn't really care about the Dothraki. Here they go to the greatest city that's not that great, and that is Karth. And it's definitely quite something. It's quite a boring plot line, actually. It's just like the creepy visuals. I like when the dragons, gain the ability to breathe fire and whatever, but it was just kind of predictable. It was just kind of, I don't know. I was not a big fan of the plot line altogether. I think that it could definitely have been cut, or at least shortened, or at least they could have done something more interesting, because to be honest with you, that was probably the weakest part of the whole show. It just went on and on, and I just didn't care. Whenever we went back to her, we loved Daenerys, we loved seeing the dragons, but we don't really love whatever's been going on with her. And going into season 3, I'm interested to see if that continues, or if she finally gets some more interesting plot lines. Now let's talk about the main focus of the season. At least the main episode. Blackwater is definitely the best episode I've seen yet of Game of Thrones. And it's not just because it's a freaking awesome battle. It reminded me of like a Game of Thrones level Helm's Deep. I thought the visual effects, the explosions were really cool and amazing. I thought everything about that was fantastic. What I really loved was like the personal moments of the Battle of Blackwater. I really liked Cersei's role in that. It made her somehow more hateable and somehow more sympathetic. I liked Shae saving Sansa in case anything happened. I really just thought that this episode was just absolutely incredible. I thought Tyrion was amazing. I loved when they were chanting for him. I think that this is definitely one of the best things to ever happen in TV history, because I did hear about Blackwater being one of the best episodes of one of the best shows of all time, even before I became a big Game of Thrones fan. I remember everyone was talking about it back when it happened, when I was a lot younger. So looking forward to seeing what other battles we get, because I've heard some awesome battles are coming up, but I was impressed by that. And my favorite part of the whole episode and the whole season was the ending, when you've got Cersei telling her son the story of the lion and the stags and all that, and I thought that was sort of a great metaphor. And I don't think he really understood the metaphor, but then showing Tywin's men coming in, and that's really awesome. And then you have the doors open, and you have Renly's, I forget his name, but the gay lover of Renly, the brother of his wife, I forget their names, I forget those character names, probably should remember them, coming in Renly's armor, and it was like, whoa. And the soundtrack was so on point. And then you have Stannis screaming to stand and fight, but he's being pulled back by his men to safety, as the whole King's Landing area burns with the bodies of Stannis' men. And then Tywin makes that insane entrance and shows us who the real badass of Westeros is, who the most powerful man is, who the bad guy of this series is, but also could be a good guy from some perspectives. That's what makes Game of Thrones so interesting, is that you've got guys like Joffrey, and I hear about other characters coming up that are supposed to be just so bad and so dislikable and hateable and whatever, and just people have disdain for those guys like that. But there's also people like Cersei and Jaime and Tywin, and even like Tyrion and Stannis, who I don't think are good guys. I guess Tyrion's the hero from a lot of perspectives, but they're not necessarily the people that you want to win the Iron Throne or to win the battles. But there's those points that make them sympathetic. There's those battles, those scenes that make you think, oh, I see why they're like the way they are. That's why they did that. And that's what makes Game of Thrones so interesting. And I think that's the one thing it has over a lot of fantasy, science fiction, any stories is that who are the bad guys? Like we have some real jerks like Joffrey, who are just really hateable. But you've got real people. You're watching this and you're cheering for the Lannisters, even though who's a better guy, the Stannis Baratheon or Cersei and Tywin Lannister? Who's the hero? I mean, I don't think Stannis is a hero, but he's certainly a lot better than seeing Joffrey as king. But you're cheering for King Joffrey, even though it's Joffrey, and that's one of the things that makes Game of Thrones so interesting. Alright guys, that's Season 2. Hopefully I can get Season 3 done as soon as possible so I can give you guys the review of that. I'm a couple episodes into Season 3, and it's already been really good so far. One more thing I forgot to mention was Jon Snow had that little plot line with the wildling girl, Ygritte. I just forgot to mention that. I kind of forget about that plotline, but it's definitely a lot more important in this third season coming up. So we're going to see what comes out of that. But it's interesting for sure to see what that is. But mainly, I think the other plot lines are much more important and stand out more, at least for what made the season good. So yeah, guys, thank you for watching this video. Let me know what your thoughts are below, and I'll see you guys all later. Goodbye, everybody.